Hi there, it's Tanvi with K2 News. We're right in front of the ICE building because President Donald Trump says this place is under siege attack. So let's talk to the people actually on the ground. Hey Jack, this is a protester here. Thank you for joining us to talk to us on our live stream. Jack, tell me how long you've been here.
I have been here since late February. If you're talking about today, I've been here for a couple hours.
Tell me about this chicken outfit, Jack.
Okay, so the chicken outfit is something I've been wearing at protests for a couple months now. Started with the Taco Trump thing. It didn't really have much meaning beyond that, and I've just continued to wear it. Seems to stand out.
Why are you continuing to protest? Because I know we were talking about how you were here protesting immigration enforcement.
Yeah.
But now the National Guard's coming.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of us that have been down here that have recognized the larger picture of what is happening, whether it's people that read Project 2025 or just understand what the rhetoric that the Republicans have been using leads to. And so, and I've always tried to keep my part of it centered on what is happening in that building to people. It's also a protest of the larger overreaches, and ICE just happens to be the clearest example we've seen of that. So yeah, today I decided to come out in the rain. I wanted to make sure that I was here because we're expecting National Guard at any point, and that's just something that's not needed.
Tell me a little bit about how the temperature, and by the way, those were honks of support for the protesters. There's a lot of honks of support.
We've seen that especially in the last 5 days. It's been on an uptick. We always got some of it, and it's been on an uptick since Trump first mentioned us back on Labor Day. But the last 5 days, ever since he said he was federalizing troops to come in here, it's been amazing. And a lot of people coming down as well, Portland residents coming down to get their footage of war-ravaged Portland because, I'm sure most of us have a relative that lives somewhere that kind of genuinely thinks that's what it's like.
Tell me, how many people come out here during the daytime and how many in the nighttime?
Daytime is small. What the daytime is largely focused around, especially during the weekdays when they are open for administrative functions, is advocacy work. So getting Know Your Rights information or legal support connected to people who have to go in for their appointments as part of the process. These are people that are doing it legally. And so you'll see, a tent of a few people. Obviously in the last week, we get a little more presence, whether it's press or people coming down just to see the situation on the ground. But then where we see the larger numbers and where it pivots more to what you would traditionally think of as a protest, that happens, starting at 5, and you see an uptick trickle until about 8.
We know the temperature goes up at night. Some people have called protesters agitators. There's been, as you said, a shattered window. There's been graffiti, a lot of high emotions.
Yeah.
What do you say in response to that?
Look, emotions are high right now. This is not, I think, if for people who are recognizing what's happening in this country and are recognizing the harm that's being done to people, it's hard to regulate those emotions. But there has been an incredibly minimal amount of agitation, and the majority of that we are seeing is infiltrators coming down trying to start stuff with protesters, especially in the last week as Portland's become kind of this place to be to get views on videos.
So why take the bait?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, I think taking the bait would be being violent in response. And I think that's the bait that people are avoiding. I don't think it's taking the bait to come out here and have a presence, because the answer to an overreach is to strategically respond, and I don't think the strategic response is everyone turtling and showing no defiance to what's happening. I think a well-structured and the same reason that we have been protesting out here for 110 days. It's to highlight what is happening, in this building, in this ICE sort of process as a whole, And that's not going to stop just because there's an increased attention. It's still important for us to come out and highlight that. I mean,
Can you shed light on what is happening in the building?
yeah. So what we have happening at this building in particular is an ice processing facility and field office. So this isn't a place where they hold people for extended period of time. They're only allowed to hold people for 12 hours. They've actually violated that, and the city has issued a violation. It's part of their land use permit. But this is like a transfer facility. It's where they stage some of their operations for ICE vehicles, and it's where they try and grab people who come in for their appointments if they're able to.
Is there a strategy to the protests, perhaps? Because I've seen you guys blocking this area. Is it so that they can't pick people up, or I'm just speculating? You can tell me.
Yeah, so none of the... Look, I can't speak for everyone, and I haven't been down here every night. The standing in front of the driveway, the way I utilize it is not as an attempt to block vehicles. You know, if you see when they come out with vehicles, people move out of the way. And so it's more so just making sure that there's, they know that there's people watching what's happening, and that they won't be able to mask themselves and get away with what they're doing forever. There will be accountability at some point, because there's always accountability for things like this in the long run.
I know we've seen videos of some sort of gas being deployed
Yeah.
at protesters, and we've seen flashbangs. Have you been here for any of those instances, and how has it impacted you?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of nights in the past couple months where I've gone home and had dealt with residue. I'm hoping I'm not dealing with any of the long-term stuff. I was really sick a couple days ago, and it might have. I'm worried that just being down here so much has exposed my lungs to a lot of the gases that they're using. Ultimately, though, and this is going to sound, you know, like a talking point, but it really is the case. What's happening to us is nothing compared to what's happening to people. The protesters, we do choose to be out here, right? And while that's not an excuse for them to brutalize us just for expressing First Amendment rights, it is also important to know that what they're doing to us, they are doing worse things to the people that they are grabbing, and they are not getting, you know, as much support and attention as they should be getting.
And you know, Jack, when we're talking about gas deployment, just next to the ICE facility is the Cottonwood School, and they actually had to move because there was munitions in their play yard and there was gas going into their school.
I mean, you can't be bringing kids in. It's one of those. It's one of those things that really calls into question the decision to approve a permit for an ICE facility here. That was a decision made back in 2011 by City Council. And they were dismissive of the idea that eventually a building like that would lead to the tactics that they are currently using. Why this needs to be in the middle of a residential area and why they feel the need to deploy gas to the extent that they are doing, I don't know.
Well, that's an ongoing discussion in Portland City Council, right? Yeah. A few council members have proposed legislation that basically cracks down on this place.
Yep.
And on people who want to lease to ICE in the future. Are you following any of that?
Yeah, so Councilors Canal and Murillo are doing a really good job of introducing this legislation. I also saw that Councilor Avalos, I believe, is introducing a comprehensive one. Canal and Murillo have been really strong voices in support of, yes, the protesters, but support of the fact that this is a crisis that needs to be responded to, not just ignored and hope that it sweeps away.
And for you guys who aren't politics nerds, like I think we probably are, just to give you a little bit of the rundown, some of the policies that Portland City Councilors have proposed are: one, making Portland a sanctuary city. That means providing trainings to employees within the city to learn what they can and cannot say to ICE. Another one is a mask ban. Another one is charging a fee to people who want to lease to ICE. The point of that is so that the city can recoup costs that they have to pay in resulting protests and all of that stuff.
Yeah, those are kind of the big big three that are being pushed. I think last time I talked to them, there's across a couple counselors 7 pieces of legislation that are being explored. Look, we need to use what levers we have. None of us are under the illusion that the Portland City Council is going to be able to single-handedly stand up to the Trump administration. That's just unrealistic, and there's federal priority for certain activities. But we should be doing everything that we can for accountability. Masked agents are a problem. They erode the trust that people are supposed to have in law enforcement. They allow for easy impersonation of officers. We've been seeing that more and more. People just buying gator masks and vests online, and people are so scared to question that now that they get away with it.
By the way, we have reached out to ICE on all these pieces of legislation, and they have said that these are attempts at giving criminals a space to hide. They're vehemently against all the legislation. They're saying they're just trying to do their job. They also mentioned that assaults amongst immigration enforcement officers have gone up over 1,000%. Jack, also, while I have you here, do you mind showing us a little bit of the imagery here? You guys have quite a setup. You have what looks like a vigil.
Yeah, and so some of this stuff, it's not, let's go take a look.
Yeah, we're walking with you, Jack.
So, what I love, one of my favorite things are when people make stuff like this. So this is keeping it centered on the issues that it should be centered on, which is the people that are affected. These are people who have been detained, some higher profile cases like Rumeysa Ozturk. That was the Tufts University student that was just grabbed off the street. You've got people who have died in ICE custody. We've compiled a list of at least 15 people, and those are just the ones that we know about. So work like this is really great for the real reason that we're down here.
And then there's a vigil, and then there's a notice of an unauthorized campsite.
Yeah.
When did that come into place?
These have been going up for the last 3 months. So basically, when the large scale, like the ongoing encampment or whatever you want to call it, protest, the ICE out of Portland stuff, initially started right here, and then has been moved around by these campsite notices, has landed there, and these have been put up. I mean, you can see how many of them are there.
Oh wow! So they've really been plopped on top of each other, one after one.
Yep.
Plopped.
So this has been something that they place so that they can come through and do a camp sweep. And what frustrates me is not the attempt to enforce the law, because that's fine, but it's the fact that we continue to use significant resources, especially police resources. I mean, they come down when there's a camp sweep or even for the deployments, and it's not working. Like, if the goal is to get the encampment or the protest to go away, which I disagree with, but even if that is the stated goal, it's not working. And it's frustrating to see resources continue to be poured into this rather than places that I think it would be better used for.
Well, what do you say to people who might think this is necessary to avoid some of the graffiti or the windows being shattered?
I think that's a valid way to interpret it. I would disagree that is a significant enough reason, and I don't. Yeah, I think that's what I would say.
And by the way, guys, we're here, we're counting maybe a dozen people here total just on this side. There are camps set up because there are people who have been staying here overnight. Do you know how many people have been camping overnight?
I don't. It's small.
And
I mean, there's people that are down here during the night and then go home, and I couldn't tell you how many stay at night.
But there.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the tents,
Well,
so
exactly.
I'm wondering if that.
They've moved a couple times, like I said, but yeah, there have been people down here. I think we're on what's considered day 120 something. We had 100 days as a milestone recently and had a larger protest for that. But yeah.
And Jack, lastly, I would love if you could show us this setup here. It looks like some sort of vigil.
Yeah, so there's been various, there's been a lot of use of flowers, which has been nice. There's a Monday protest every week for the past while the purpose has been bring flowers. Let's remember the Taken. So a vigil gets set up there a lot. The last 2 months, we've had a silent interfaith solidarity march, which has been organized. It's a lot of Quakers and Buddhists, and they'll come around, and the thing is you bring flowers and you walk around the building 3 times. Each time you pass the ice building, you drop a flower. And I think it's stuff like that that's really beautiful. This has been set up here for a couple weeks now. I think it was a peace sign originally, but someone last night brought a bunch of flowers. So all of this around the outside, this right here, that was brought last night.
Jack, thank you so much for giving us the lay of the land here. We really appreciate it. And before I go, I do want to show you guys a little bit more about what's going on this side of the protest. First of all, you can see the stop sign. It says Stop ICE. So a lot of messaging that shows what's going on. And on this side of the street, this is where you can see max a dozen people. They've set up literally camp here, and they're trying to make a point that they're resisting ICE. If you've made it through this live stream, thank you so much. We'll be pouring out more and more content for you. We even spoke to a veteran who's been protesting here. More on that in a bit. Thank you guys so much.